Oh, well, okay.
Okay, that is the wrong thing. Hold on. Sorry. That was a Thriller by Michael Jackson. You're welcome. Okay, here we go. This is the one.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And the show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host this week. My name is Sean Heron, and it's my pleasure, as always, to introduce our panelists. First up, we have the host of the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shooting Podcast, Second Amendment advocate, co-host of the Gun and Gear Podcast, firearms trainer, and owner of Simon Says Train. Tony Simon, welcome to the show.
My name is Tony Simon. I'm the largest pound-for-pound firearm instructor in America. Glad to be on, Sean.
Glad to have you here. Next up, we had a last-minute substitution, but he is a legend in the podcasting gun industry. You may know him from shows such as We Like Shooting Double Tap, We Like Shooting at the Movies, and his name is Aaron Krieger. Welcome to the show, buddy.
I just want to say I'm pound for pound the biggest Jew you ever had in this show.
Okay, perfect. That's actually maybe true. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Glad to have you both here. Before we get started, I want to say go to patriotpatch.co and join their Patch of the Month Club. They sponsor this show. Go show them a little bit of love and also get some amazing and awesome patches and Second Call Defense. Firearmsradio.tv/SCD. If you carry a gun, have a gun, whatever. What happens after you pull the trigger? That's what Second Call Defense helps with. Let's go ahead and get started here. So PA judge strikes down assault weapons restrictions passed after the Tree of Life murders. So we all saw some crazy stuff going down in Pennsylvania after the synagogue shooting, and they passed some crazy stuff. Well, it just so turns out that a Pennsylvania judge struck it down, said, nope, they preempt any local, we have laws that preempt any local regulation pertaining to the regulation of firearms. Not going to do it. Clearly, the people who brought this lawsuit are happy about it. The people who put the ordinances into place and fought for them are not happy about it. Tony, this is East Coast, so I don't really know geography, but I assume it's close to you because I think everything's close over there. What do you think?
I think they got slapped. It was obvious. I think the people of Pittsburgh need to be ticked that this money was wasted because the Pennsylvania Second Amendment says your Second Amendment rights shall not be questioned. And they were actually going against state law, as it were, because you can't have different laws for every town and every county in PA. And that's the law. And they were violating that knowingly and was pretty much of the opinion, so what? Let them take us to court. Well, that was a waste of money and it was totally illegal and they got slapped, as should be. Thank goodness. Freedom rings.
Yeah, I do agree. And it was 3 specific ordinances that were put into place. Krieger, what do you think?
Any law or rules made as a reactionary method or idea is never a good idea. Always take your time, think about it, and then if need be, take action, but don't react.
Yeah, 100%. And those 3, by the way, were to restrict the use of air quote assault weapons, extended magazines, and armor-piercing ammunition. So yeah, glad to see that. That's definitely a win. We've got another one of those coming up in just a minute. But before we get to that, federal judge posits that to minimize mass shootings, the war on cops needs to be stopped first. And I thought this one was kind of interesting. So he wasn't actually the judge in the case, but he was technically dissenting via a denial en banc, which basically means he was criticizing his colleagues on the court for clearing a path for this wrongful death case to go forward. What had happened was cops get called to a neighborhood because there's some crazy stuff going on. 150 yards away, they see a person. That person fires 2 shots at officers. Couple minutes later, some guy comes riding his bike down the street towards the officers with a toy gun in his hand. The cops shoot and kill And it's just gone kind of crazy. But this is a Donald Trump appointee to the federal bench. And he basically said, if we want to stop mass shootings, we should stop punishing police officers who put their lives on the line to prevent them. And I think that this is kind of interesting. I have some stuff to say, but Aaron, I'll start out and hear your thoughts.
There is a definite war on authority, not just police, but all authority in general. And I see that, and we do need to take a break. These people do put their lives on the line. It's a high stress job. They're put in situations of life and death at the moment. So, I mean, we just gotta just take a breath. Again, I'm going to advocate this all night for every story. Basically, you just gotta take a breath and stop attacking these officers. For a great example was that female officer who shot that man in his apartment. That should have been manslaughter. I don't think she preemptively thought about the idea of going in there and killing this man. But because she was female, because she was a cop, and because she was white, I think she was like the poster child for let's just bring her down as quick and as hard as possible. And I think she was railroaded.
Interesting. Tony, thoughts on all of that?
I think Aaron's diabetes is out of hand, and
Listen,
he's out of his dang mind. Yeah, you want some Skittles, dude? I look at it this way. You're put in a bad position sometimes as a police officer, and everything you do gets second guessed. Well, guess what? That's part of your job. Just like it was part of my job being a United States Marine, it's part of my job working for the Department of Corrections now. There are risks you take knowingly going into the job. To scream life's not fair afterwards, and I'm not being given a break, no, I'm not buying that. And as far as that lady, police officer or not, going into her apartment, sorry, but what about this held to a higher standard thing? As concealed carry holder, I have to be able to articulate how my life was in danger. You weren't even in your own house. You can't articulate why you pulled the trigger on this guy. And then when you got up on stand, you said you shot with an intention to kill him. I mean, these words out of her mouth, not anyone else's. So no, she dropped the ball. She got what truthfully, she didn't even get what most civilians would have probably gotten by going into someone else's house and shooting them.
But
So
I mean,
anyway,
let's be clear though. She didn't know it. At the time she thought it was her place. And if I'm pulling the trigger on somebody, I'm not shooting to wound them. I'm shooting to kill them.
okay. First mistake. You're shooting to stop someone from doing a thing that threatened your life. You're not
Yes.
shooting to kill them.
Oh no,
all
I'm
right?
shooting to end this situation. I'm going to be honest here. And I know, like, if it ever happens, this could be brought up against me, but I'm shooting to stop any threat. That's
Okay. And again, she was not in her home.
correct.
That's upon her. She's a grown-ass woman as a police officer. She hasn't figured out this isn't her house. Maybe that's why she was a detective. She doesn't pick up on clues. Sorry, but no, she got what she got. I feel no pity for her because as a firearms instructor, I have to talk people down from this gung-ho, I got a gun, and every problem was solved with this gun attitude. I have no idea what her attitude is. I just know a man is dead who was in his own home.
I feel for that guy, and I feel for his family. I think it's all, but I don't think she did it with malice or intent to hurt this man. Just because
I understand what
yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't care if she did it with a song in her heart and a smile on her lips. She took a man's life that was in his home, minding his business. And this is a person in a position of authority with a badge and a gun. You don't get a break. You get held to a higher standard, in my opinion.
Yeah. So going back to the police officers having a tough time, and I agree with this. We're seeing it all the time. You know, they're being second guessed to death, honestly. And I think it's tough. It's interesting to see a federal judge, especially a Trump appointee, come out and say that. But yeah, I think we've covered that one. Next up is 3D printed bolt action 223 fires successfully. There's been lots of guns that were made, but generally the upper, considering it's so easy to get and it's just a firearms part that you can buy without a background check or anything else in most states, maybe not Jersey. I don't know. But, normally those weren't. So it's a bolt action, basically. It's got a side charging bolt action, and pretty much the entire thing, except for the bolt and the barrel, are 3D printed, which actually makes kind of a lot of sense, right? Because on a bolt action, the bolt locks into the breech on the barrel, and that's where all that pressure is contained until the projectile and the gases are expelled out the front or out the muzzle. So this is actually kind of interesting. They say they've test fired it once, and I just think we're going to keep seeing more and more and more and more of this. Tony?
I think it's a great idea. The more and more it takes the government out of our lives, to do with anything, the better it is. The more it makes these gun control laws irrelevant, the better it is. I find nothing wrong with that, and this is the way technology is growing.
I agree. Aaron.
I had a polymer made lower that broke just from me torquing on it a little bit, and then thinking that this plastic is not fiberglass and interlaced and stuff kind of concerns me. But what really concerns me is looking at this 3D printed gun is they couldn't spend another nickel and make a trigger guard. It's like, come on, guys.
Actually, good point. I didn't even notice that until you.
Hold on, wait. Let me see this again. I didn't. Where the hell?
It's just a trigger, like a tiny little gun section.
Oh wow! Hey, this is my safety right here, sir.
Right, exactly.
But wait, is that an ACOG on top of it?
It's a fake hog. They've 3D printed that too, I'm sure.
Probably.
But the idea behind it, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's recoil. There's felt recoil in any AR, but it scares me. That's great that they're able to do it. They said it fired once. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's got a 10-round magazine. I say put a standard size 30 in there and go full crazy.
It is pretty nuts because Sammy spec for 223 is like what, 51 or 55,000?
55,000
pounds per square inch. That's some pressure. So yeah. I think we'll keep seeing this stuff, and good on them. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Next story is ATF allows citizens to step into agents' shoes, proverbial shoes. But basically, as part of a 7-week course to teach community leaders about how the ATF works, the Bureau invited Blockwatch captains, religious leaders, and 10 TV's Lacey Crisp to learn about the agency of just over 5,000 and their work. It's so people know what is ATF's job, what are our responsibilities, what parts of the law do we enforce. It gives them a better idea about why and how about why we do what we do. I don't know. This is kind of interesting, I guess. They do some firearms training. They do just kind of all kinds of different stuff. And I actually had an ATF interview this morning, and the guy actually showed up wearing like a hoodie and stuff, which I thought was actually kind of cool because I expected some dude in a suit that was going to make me super uncomfortable. But no, just rolled in a hoodie. I thought that was pretty cool. But I guess I don't really need to stand in his shoes because I've got hoodies too.
Well, what do you practice shooting dogs at? They didn't say anything about that,
right?
Oh, or innocent women and children,
right? Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'm looking at the picture and they have like a target of unarmed people, so I got that one. But like, where's the pups? Where's the dog?
That's awful. Actually, so the IOI people they're usually gun people. They're pretty awesome. I wonder if what part of the ATF this is, but I mean, this might be fun, I guess. Like this might be something that I would do. Tony, would you do this?
You're part of FEMA, right, Aaron? Like you do some FEMA stuff too?
Yeah.
I think this is kind of sort of part of that, right? That emergency management kind of classes, 7-week course. I think is important if you want to learn about law enforcement, how things work, to be a part of it. You can't be totally separate from it and actually know how it actually works. You can theorize, but being part of it, it might open your eyes to a lot of different things. And a lot of gun people don't like the ATF, and I totally understand that you don't like the idea of it, but there's some decent human beings in there, and the more you know, the better off you are.
Aaron, would you do this?
Well, with that FEMA course, that's I think it was like 7 or 8 weeks that we did. We took that knowledge and put it into practice. We became certified to help out in emergencies. It'd be great if after this course, those people could be certified to help out and doing, Form 4s and stuff like that.
Transfers.
Let's speed this process up.
They could do like a citizen's arrest, but instead they could sell weapons to the cartels.
Right, exactly.
Directly.
No, I'm actually kidding. So to be clear, every ATF person that I've actually come in contact with has been pretty awesome. So I don't want to, we laugh and joke, but all the ATF people that I've met have been pretty cool. I've gotten a chance to be behind the scenes in an investigation into the gun thefts, which was actually kind of cool to see how they work with the FFL holder. And then even my guy today, he was awesome. He was super nice, super professional, and we got done what we needed to get done and moved on.
It's funny, when I had my FFL interview, I asked which form was for the boating accident, but he didn't have one.
Oh, nice. You probably had to fill out a form just to ask that question.
I know you probably made a list because you asked that question.
Probably. Dorito O'Rourke backpedals on AR-15 confiscation. You know, he came and he said, everyone's going to turn in their AR-15s. We're going to take your AR-15s, blah, blah, blah. I don't really know. I don't pay attention to this idiot. But former Congressman Beto O'Rourke may be softening his stance. So he was confronted by a student in Iowa on Friday who described himself as a hunter who uses an AR-15. The student said, what about these people who use that as a way to, you know, get dinner, who live down south, who don't really have a lot of options for food and they don't have money, but they can get their own? The student went on to explain that an AR-15 is much more efficient at killing an animal like a deer, and if a weaker gun is used, it could potentially put the animal through more pain, and its adrenaline can spoil the meat. O'Rourke acknowledged that this was the first time he's heard of anyone using an AR-15 to hunt a deer, which is, I say, BS. But he said perhaps a way to address a legitimate concern or need is to then ensure that those who have a need or want to use an AR-15 are able to keep it at a hunting club or at a gun range, so there's some control and safeguards still placed on that firearm. And to that, I say, I give him the middle finger. And I say, good day, sir. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, when he says keep it at a gun range or someplace else, it's just easier for them to come snag him. So I can understand why he'd be all for that. Secondly, a lot of states do not allow the use of 223 ammo for hunting larger deer because they tend to go through them and not drop them right away. But yeah, I mean, if that's what he uses, I was actually just having a conversation with my wife. One of her coworkers bagged 2 deer already for bow season, and I'm like, "Well, they must be all set." And she's like, "No, they fill up their freezer. They have huge parties of dressing these things up. You know, sausage, whatever, grind them up." So I mean, there's a lot of options for that. I'm all for it. I think if you can hunt and kill it, you should use whatever you want.
I don't know. I mean, laws exist because people have done dumb things generally, and I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's generally someone shot a bunch of deer and those deer survived and like walked around with holes in them and stuff. Probably.
Remember that those no parking signs we saw in Georgia? There's like 1,000 of them in one row, like 5 feet apart. Like someone parked there. Obviously, that's why they put up that many signs.
Yeah, I agree. Tony, what do you think about Beto?
I think after this election, Beto O'Rourke is going to disappear like the Lindbergh baby. No one's going to see him again. He's just going to be gone. He's a political nobody. He almost won an election, but the only thing anybody knows him for now is his AR-15 confiscation thing. No one knows any of his other policies.
We're going to see him a lot whenever there's a shooting, and that's about the extent of it. He'll be like a news. You see him on the news every so often when something happens, and he'll be like, "I told you so." You know, that's going to be him.
I think you're right. Guys, the Ghost Gunner 3 is coming, but does it matter? If you don't know what the Ghost Gunner is, Ghost Gunner was basically a personal CNC machine that you could upload the plans to an 80% AR receiver or whatever, and you press the button and it mills it out and does everything kind of all in one, in just like a personal box the size of, I don't know, like a big microwave or something like that. So the new one's going to come out. Looks like it's going to produce AK-47 receivers. Will be a new feature. Has several new features, but I'm just wondering at this point, I wonder how many they'll sell, first of all. And is it as important now as it once was? Tony?
I think it's really important to be able to produce firearms at home because, yes, that's a great thing. Can't do it here in Jersey because it's against the law, so I really encourage these things in other places, just because F-U, New Jersey. And I'm all for it. Does it make a difference? I think it does. If it doesn't make a difference now, it will later, because sooner or later, this is a fight that's going to happen in every generation, and sometimes we're going to take wins and sometimes we're going to take losses. And if we have the ability to produce firearms at home, well, we kind of kill their rules pretty much in general until they come up with something new.
Yeah. Aaron?
I personally would not be interested in something like this. SingSaw receivers are so inexpensive right now. And now if I were to be able to use a block of aluminum and just throw it in there, and then it, would CNC the entire system out versus an 80%er, I'd be down for it for sure. But the cost of the 80s right now are basically the same cost as a full built out receiver. I'm good.
Well, how much is this?
I actually don't know on this one, but it's a couple grand.
Yeah, I mean,
the old one, $2,100.
I mean, if I'm making my own, like Gray Wolf Firearms receivers, then yeah, that might be a good. But then I'd have to change it to an 07
Wait a
manufacturer.
minute. What, you're Gray Wolf now? Oh,
Yeah.
is that it? That's
Gray-
the animal you picked to fucking insult with you? Really? Listen, Gray Sloth Industries. I'm sorry about that, Sean.
Gray
Yeah,
Sloth
time.
was already taken.
Oh,
I'm
just
sorry.
I'm writing it down. It's fine.
I'm sorry. He sprung that one on me. I didn't know. I apologize.
It's fine.
Timestamp.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Well, I mean, it was either Gray Wolf or Silver Fox, but I think I chose wisely.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. These are $2,600, which still not really that bad, honestly.
Well, I mean, again, if I was mass producing and I had an 07, or not mass producing, but producing enough for the locals, then yeah, that would be worth it. But it's not, and I don't have an 07, so no thanks.
Also, why is it only 80%? I mean, isn't it just the computer program?
You know, it might actually do the 100%. I just don't know enough about it, I guess. No, it is 80%. Yeah. It ships with code to complete 80% AR-15, AR-308, M1911, and Polymer 80 frames.
Wow, I'm gonna produce a 100-year-old gun at home with a computer. I'm gonna make the oldest geezer gun ever on a computer. Yeah, that should work out perfectly.
I did 1911 by hand, and it was one of the worst things I've ever done.
A friend of mine did one.
Well, yeah.
A friend of mine did one, and it's beautiful, and it's just built like amazing. But he's a freaking doctor. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's good at working with his hands.
True. Oh man, approved, denied, or other. The CRPA challenges Department of Justice denials. So in California, now the Department of Justice basically says whether they can buy, what is it, firearms? I believe that's what this one is. But now they've actually been coming back with a new thing that is other. So let me read this letter that they sent to somebody. They said, "Dear whatever, you recently applied to purchase a firearm, and when a person applies to purchase a firearm in California, the California DOJ is required by state and federal laws to examine its records to determine whether the purchaser is eligible under state and federal laws to purchase and possess firearms. Your recent firearms purchase application is being denied because their review of your identifying information revealed the following information: other. This determination is based on information you provided in your application to purchase a firearm." And it says that if you wish to challenge the accuracy of the department's determination or the completeness of your criminal history record, please complete a request for live scan service, blah, 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 blah. So they don't really tell you what the problem is, and they won't help you because you have to figure out what is going on. But yeah, now they just say other. You don't get anything. Tony, what do you think?
I think this is a problem with bureaucracy. No one has to answer for this.
Mm-hmm.
You just got your rights denied, and they just blew smoke up your butt at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, you got no answer, and the people that are for big government goes, well, you need to. No, you just got your rights denied, and for no reason whatsoever. So yeah, I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Aaron, what do you think about other being a reason for declination?
Well, it's funny because in California, where this is taking place, other on your driver's license is okay, where it says sex, but apparently it's not okay otherwise. So dude, it makes me shake my head.
I know. This is definitely going to court. What was it? The CRPA,
Or as I like to call it, crap.
CRPA. Yeah.
Crappa.
Washington preemption upheld. Edmonds can't make their own rules. So here we have another preemption law that's coming through from the NRA ILA. And let's see, it's a motion of judgment against the city of Edmonds for violating state's preemption statute, and it invalidates the mandatory firearm storage ordinance passed by the city council, constitutes a victory for freedom and the Second Amendment. So we're seeing all these things being put into place, and now we're starting to see the court cases where they're being struck down. I think we will see a lot more of these coming over the next couple of years. And, I say all the time, I'm like, look, litigation is when everything else fails, right? These are civil liberties. These are individual rights. We have to fight for them as individuals. We have to get out there, and we have to make ourselves known as people and these organizations, because it's all about the advocacy. Once advocacy fails, then we're stuck with litigation, and litigation takes years, if ever, to get away from. And now we're seeing some of the litigation, and I think that's great. But if we were better advocates and we fought a little bit harder, some of this stuff wouldn't even go into place. California, not a whole lot we can do, but some places we would see that. Aaron, what do you think?
I'm just getting sick and tired of fighting the same battle over and over, just in every single state. It should be done once. And I understand state judicial rulings don't apply to other states, but come on, at this point, it should be just common knowledge. It's just they want to remove your rights and they want you to spend your money to fight or the money to fight. And it's getting really frustrating and it's starting to really make me angry.
Tony?
I really think I 100% agree with you, Sean. We have to be active as voters. We have to be active as activists. You cannot depend on the courts to fight your battles. What you do is toss all these legislators out in the first place, and you make them fear touching the Second Amendment. Just like Bill Clinton warned them. He was like, listen, you mess with the Second Amendment, it could cost you the Senate, it could cost you the Congress. And that's what it did after they passed the assault weapons ban back in the day. And you have to make them fear losing their phony baloney jobs. That's how you do it. That's how you make them stop doing this state by state, when you just have a big push and you dump them all out on their butts. And it can be done. It can be done, but it has to be a grassroots upswell. People have to get ticked off and say, I'm not taking it anymore, and shut these guys down.
We did it here in Colorado in 2013. We got rid of 2 state senators that put into place magazine bans. Guess what? 2019 still have mag bans in place. So, okay, great. Yeah. We were activists. We did great lobbying. We even did litigation, and all those things failed, and we still have these crappy laws. So yeah, if we don't get personally involved and fight for it, no one else is going to do it for us. So is this a free speech giveaway? Dave Chappelle angers the left as he waxes poetic on the Second Amendment. He basically won an award, the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, which is apparently an immense honor. I will go on record as saying I love Dave Chappelle. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time. Loved the new special he did, loved his show. Like, the dude is funny, even if I disagree with things that he says. But as he was giving a speech in front of a star-studded Washington crowd on Sunday, he said about guns. Let's see, where is it? There it is. He said, man, it's not that serious. The First Amendment is first for a reason. He was speaking about comedians that are getting chased out of comedy because people are so politically correct. He said, First Amendment is first for a reason. Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out. I saw some people on the pro-gun side get a little bit mad at that, but I'm like, dude, I mean, that I actually kind of I agree with that. First Amendment and Second Amendment, if it fails, I think that's great. He is angering everybody. He angered a bunch of people with his special. Now he's angering people with this. He said he hates guns, but he owns a couple and he owns them for protection. I think that's great. Aaron, what do you think?
I totally agree. I think the Second Amendment is to protect our First Amendment and all the other amendments that follow. I totally agree with him. And I too am a huge fan of Dave Chappelle. Love the guy. I would love to hang out with him because I think I would just die laughing.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Or die from Beatus. I don't know which one.
Right.
Tony, what do you think?
I too agree with the Gray Vulture. I find Dave Chappelle quite entertaining. And I don't have to agree with his stance on firearms. I don't have to agree with it. I mean, anything but what he said is the truth. The Second Amendment is there for a reason, man. It will keep people alive. I mean, it's that simple. It protects 2.5 million people a year defend themselves with a firearm, them and their family. Yeah, he's 100% right. And if a comedian really ticks you off, that means he's probably making you think. And you have to question your point of view. And that really bothers some people because some of that stuff is their core belief and they just never thought into it other than from their point of view. And if someone makes you look at something differently, all of a sudden you're angry at them because you have to think. As my partner used to say, if you're ever going to tick somebody off, make them think.
Is that what he said, your partner?
Yeah, my partner.
My
partner's awesome, dude.
Your life partner?
Well, he moved to another prison, but you know.
Oh, I see.
We still talk.
The big thing is what
me. I'm the big thing.
He's an entertainer. You know, he's not making
time for your diabetes medication now.
Actually, that's my son's beeping. But he's an entertainer. He is there to entertain us. He's not there to set policy. He's not there to do a lot of things. But let's just take it for what it is. It's entertainment. Though I do agree with that statement.
And for the record, if he came out tomorrow and said that he thought the Second Amendment should be abolished, I would feel like I do about every other celebrity. I don't care what they really say. I just care that they entertain me or make me laugh or whatever it is. That's pretty much the value that they have in my life. And
Yeah, I used to be a huge Tom Cruise fan, but his Scientology just kind of turns me off at this point.
I can understand. I can understand.
Not the fact that he's played the same character for 30 years, no matter what movie it is.
Right.
It's just
But
Scientology. Okay.
yeah, well, you know, it also throws me that he's like always 6 feet tall on the screen, but in real life he's like 5'3".
He this big.
He's a tiny guy. Federal judge rules that retailers will receive no compensation for destroyed bump stocks. Basically, a federal judge last week dismissed a claim from bump stock retailers who sued the government for damages they incurred after having to destroy their inventory. The plaintiffs included 2 companies as well as 2 individuals that lost 75-ish thousand bump stocks to the ban. They filed a case in Washington, D.C. federal court arguing that the ban's requirement that bump stocks be surrendered or destroyed within 90 days with no opportunity for registration violated the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment, which states that private property can't be taken for public use without compensation. Let's also not forget that the ATF has already admitted in court that they had no authority to put that into place. So this is kind of interesting, but the court did not side with the plaintiffs. The court said that the law is different in this case because the government, as the sovereign, has the power to take property that is dangerous, diseased, or used in criminal activities without compensation. Here, ATF acted properly within the confines of the limited federal police power. ATF has admitted they had no authority to do so. This judge apparently must have missed that article or just doesn't care. I don't know. He was an appointee by Ronald Reagan. Man, Tony, what do you think?
Okay. Anybody else surprised there are over 74,000 bump stocks made? I mean, seriously?
Dude, that was literally just their stock that they had destroyed at a dump.
Exactly. Yeah, I know the guy who owned the company, and
Yeah, me too.
he was, yeah, it hit him hard, and I totally think he should have been compensated, but I think this shouldn't have passed in the first place. And this is just another. This is what happens. Elections have consequences,
Yeah.
and shouldn't this guy be retired by now? It's like Reagan was in the White House like 30 years ago.
Yeah, in the 80s. Jeez.
Yeah.
He's probably, that guy probably is just, the only gun that he owns is a, over under shotgun. I mean,
Two blast mayor.
right. So I look at this like, eminent domain laws don't apply. It's like they need to be compensated. The federal government says we're taking this away from you. They need to be compensated. Even in bankruptcies, freaking companies get like a penny on the dollar, something. These guys lost so much money. That could break a company. That could end something.
And again, to say they have no power to actually do what they did.
Right.
So you force someone to destroy their property, and you weren't even. Hey, dude. Again, can't trust the government. They don't police their own if they can get away with it. If it's politically expedient for them to compensate these people, then they would.
Right. I mean, I understand the government fighting this because, it's like our taxpayer money involved. So they're going to be like, hey, we're going to try to save but the cost of the courts, the cost of the litigation. And then on top of that, you guys said, these people, are they appealing this decision? Can they take it higher?
I mean, that I don't know. I just remember hearing the story of how they went and had to drop all of them off to be destroyed.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was sitting beside you in that.
We were literally sitting at the same table, Tony. Oh man. Let's see. Hunter becomes the hunted. Deer attacks and kills Hunter. I just added this, or I just wanted to go to this one because it actually kind of made me laugh a little bit. Even though it's horrifying and awful. Hunter dies after deer he was hunting recovers from gunshot and attacks. Definitely that is a thing that can happen, and now apparently has happened. A 66-year-old man went in to get a closer look after shooting the deer. The deer got up. He did. Aaron,
good.
Are you ever afraid of this?
No, I applaud the deer. I applaud the deer because, if you're hunting, you have the advantage. And if you can't win with that advantage, boom, that's it. Good.
I'm actually in agreement with you. I'm like, he lost by the rules of mutual combat. And Tony?
I want to be contrarian on this one, but bro, you had a gun. You had a gun. You shot the deer. What
Yep.
are you checking? Pulse, seeing if he's okay? I mean,
Sorry,
they
buddy.
I was going
put
to,
another one in him. Bullets are cheap. As Clint Smith says, a whole bunch of people have been killed by somebody or something now that they killed already.
so this next one is very interesting to me. Felon father faces charges for shooting his son's attempted kidnappers. Slidell, Louisiana, a man was arrested after opening fire on two men attempting to kidnap his son. He was at a family member's home in the early morning hours. Two men showed up attempting to take his sleeping child. He pulled out a gun, shot both men, killed one, injured the other. Those two, or the one that survived, was taken into custody, charged with aggravated attempted kidnapping of a child and second-degree murder. And the murder charge comes as a result of his actions directly causing the death of the other individual. Now, the shooter was also arrested and is facing felony charges because he was a convicted felon and prohibited from legally possessing a firearm. And he was charged with possession of a firearm by a felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated number or mark. Which brings us to the point is, should all felons completely be prohibited persons, no matter what the crime was? And I think that maybe is the answer there, just because it depends. Like nonviolent crimes, if it's a felony for a nonviolent crime, should it be? I don't know. I guess it depends kind of on the case by case basis. But at the same time, this is a really tough one because had he not had a gun, what would have happened to his kid? And he's facing 1 to 5 years in jail for this. And I also think that, oh, geez. And
You've read that comment?
yeah, I just read the comment.
I was like, what?
None of that is true, by the way.
Okay.
Anyway, 1 to 5 years, and I'm thinking, well, you know what? For my kid not to be kidnapped and whatever bad thing was going to happen to him, that is worth it to me personally. Aaron, I'll start with you. Do
we know what he was a felon of?
We don't know that.
I mean, dude, my mom threatened me with gypsies all the time. They'll come and take you in the night if you're a bad kid. You know, I don't think she would have shot anyone. She would have let them take me.
She was just trying to make you feel good. Nobody come take you.
Right.
Now, I love this because I was stationed down in Mississippi, and man, this entire story just has Louisiana all over it. Slidell, Louisiana, St. Tammany Parish. The dude's name was Dumas.
Yep.
Here you go, bro. Black powder. If you would have had a black powder firearm, that's not a firearm, and you'd still be out of jail right now, and the bad guys would still have holes in them. Yeah, sure, you'd been slinging down on them on a 1858 Remington, but you'd still be there. I'm just saying that's an option. And as far as felons having firearms, yes. If we were supposed to actually rehabilitate people with the justice system, I'd 100% agree, but we all know it's not true, and that's just messed up. I mean, either you are or you aren't, man. Either you paid your dues or you didn't. We have to, as a society, figure that out.
Yeah,
we really do.
That's a really good point. I mean, because the criminal system is not for rehabilitation. It's to get them off the street. It's just incarceration is all it is.
I mean, you can improve yourself and you can improve as a human being while you're locked up. Again, there are guys in my prison that freaking, finish high school and then go on to college. But is it really there to help you, man? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. Yeah, sure. You were a tough 18-year-old. You got locked up. You did your time. Now you're 65, 70, your grandfather, great-grandfather. You're telling me you can't use the most effective and efficient tool now to protect yourself and your family, even if you had 50 years of being an upstanding citizen and you paid your price? That's kind of ridiculous.
That's a good point. I mean, you do lose so many rights for the rest of your life for a mistake. Listen, I'm sure going across the board here, if we would have got caught doing half the stuff that we did it when we were 18 years old, I mean, we would not be allowed to own firearms today, but we are lucky. We are all fortunate that we either had a guardian angel on our shoulder or someone looking out for us. I
had money for lawyers. I actually had money for lawyers.
Oh, listen to this humble brag. Dude, I have kids. I don't even know what money looks like today, much less back when I was 18 years old. But
it was rocks. It was rocks back when you were 18 years old. You old.
It was shekels. We used shekels.
It was shells.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. This guy, the guy broke the law. He has to pay the price. That's what it boils down to for me.
And to me, I'm like 1 to 5 years. Okay,
totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Worth it.
Yep.
Yep, be able to make a bunch of his baseball games after I get out.
Right.
If he makes the majors.
Yep.
Misleading Gun Violence Memorial makes its debut. This comes to us from Fast Company, and it's kind of an interesting thing. The article starts out by saying each week 700 Americans lose their lives as a result of gun violence. I say, okay, well, that's not true, but let's keep going. So at this year's Chicago Architecture Biennial, they built an art exhibit. It's basically houses with tiny little cubbies all throughout them, and in each cubby, there is a personal item that once belonged to victims of gun violence. Tony, take it away.
Oh my God. Listen, they play with numbers. They play with your feelings. Why don't you build a cubby with, again, the 2.5 million people that protect themselves every year from being attacked? That'd be a lot bigger house. That'd be a lot different story. Why don't you have the people understand that supposedly 60% or more of this thing is people that took their own lives with a firearms? If you go and by the number of deaths, yes, 60% or more is suicide. Another 30% is criminal on criminal. So pretty much this should really be a small trailer parker violence if you really want to talk to, not just big houses. So yeah, it's all bull crap.
Certainly is. I'm just like, wow.
I want to know if there's anything of value there that I can sell.
Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, is there anything cool in there?
It didn't look like it. I didn't.
Right. I mean, they're like little cut, just smaller than it's like smaller than a 20-ounce soda bottle. These little holes,
the size of a brick, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, what awesome thing of value can you actually put in there? There's nothing going to be good in there. Why even bother looking?
Like a whole thing of like $100 bills.
Right. That would be cool. Or someone's wallet. Right. But it's probably going to be like glasses or socks or some kid's toy. Like, I don't care about that stuff. I want something cool. I want my art to be something you can hang on the wall, not something I have to walk inside of.
Yeah. GitHub thread touts that the Second Amendment is no longer necessary. They start off by saying guns are no longer the answer in the face of a liberty-denying oppressor. And he says a militia is no longer needed in order to ensure that the American experiment of democracy makes it to fruition. Modern weaponry is ridiculously overpowered in comparison to the muskets present at the time of the original post. The mentally ill townsfolk and brigands keep killing lots of other townfolks. The solution is twofold. The people have the right to use appropriate weapons to hunt and protect themselves, revise the right to assemble in order to allow people to self-organize to resist oppressors. This is crazy to me, coming from a bunch of individuals that tout Trump as literally Hitler, but then saying that we don't have that we should not have the power to resist a liberty-denying oppressor. Just so much ridiculousness. Aaron, what do you think? Should we get rid of it? Do we not need the second anymore?
I don't even know what GitHub is. Is that like a website where you can buy Gits?
It's funny, actually. GitHub is actually a code repository. When you're writing code and stuff, you can use GitHub as like your source control. So you upload a file, it tracks what changes were made to the file. Other people can edit the file and then check the file in. I have no idea why this is on GitHub, but
yeah, I see your opinion and I disagree with it, sir. I think it is trash, and I think you are trash for writing it.
There you go, Tony.
What kind of depository is this?
It's sort of like code.
Or like a suppository.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's a suppository. It's childlike, and I love when you hear people like this. I'm like, so we should dismiss the entire history of America and the violence they used against people of every race, every creed, every color for the last 200 plus years. We should ignore firebomb in Philadelphia, ignore Kent State, ignore you can continue on and on. Waco, Ruby Ridge, just government overstep and killing its own citizens because this guy said so. Hey, dude, look, it's great. It's the internet. You can have your opinion no matter how uninformed, uneducated, or intentionally ignorant it is.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But let's go back to his the weaponry of today is ridiculous, and it doesn't compare to muskets. Well, in fact, the Second Amendment covered military weapons of the time. You could own muskets because that's what the military had. You could own cannons because that's what the military had.
Hold on. Stop. No, civilians bought cannons and donated them to the militia. The cannon were owned by civilians. The township got together and they raised funds at the old firehouse or wherever the heck ye old firehouse.
I'll tell you what, I want a cannon. I want a cannon.
You can have a cannon.
You can have one.
I'm going to get two. I know Faxon makes cannons. Did you know that?
No,
Oh,
They
man,
make cannon barrels, like legitimately old style cannon barrels.
that's awesome. So Gray Buzzard Cannon should be coming out, man. That's awesome. I can't wait.
yeah, that is such a stupid argument, because then that would mean that the First Amendment doesn't cover things like, the internet or telephones or anything else like that. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous, and specious argument. I hate it, and I don't like him either.
But it can easily be made in your own echo chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that just like signed up, like, I love this guy's idea. This is great. And then they all moved to Australia and just hate life.
Right. I guess since we talked about the deer attacking, a New York man incites local kids to molest a hunter. And I believe that is molest in the bother him. So this guy's sitting in a car. Dude with a yellow shirt comes on with a bunch of kids and starts like just hassling him. He's like literally 100% allowed to be there, has the proper permits. He's in the exact area that he's supposed to be in, just sitting in his car waiting. They come up and say, no, there's no hunting here. And he's like, well, actually there is. And he starts getting the kids, and one kid, a little boy, by the way, and not a tiny boy, like I'm talking like 12, 13-year-old boy, starts crying. And what did the effing deer do to you? And I'm like, oh, you little.
Well, apparently deer are murderers. I mean, he's saving people.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone needs to tell that kid.
Yeah. You should say thank you to that, sir. Yeah.
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 I'm like, you know how many people die a year from hitting deer?
Oh my
You know
God.
how
So
many? Yeah.
check this out. I was on my way dropping my kids off at school, and my sister-in-law calls me, who is also dropping her kids off at the same school. She's like, I just got hit by a deer. I'm like, you hit a deer? She's like, no, I just got hit by a deer. A deer ran out across an entire lane, hit the side of her car, and blew out her window right behind the driver's door. So, I mean, she's like, and then the deer ran off. I'm like, what a douchebag of a deer. But yeah, like that deer was out for blood. He tried to kill my sister-in-law.
Wow.
Deer was anti-Semitic.
Well, she's Catholic. It's weird. I married into that family. It's yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they're really happy about that.
So, yeah, not really.
Hey, I heard Gray Buzzard Firearms married into the family.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I still have some deer meat down here, and I'm gonna hang it on my porch and be like, "Look at this! You want some of this?"
Put it on a pike and hang it in front of the house as
Right.
a warning. As a warning.
Attorney General Barr proposes pre-crime efforts to reduce mass shootings. This came last Wednesday. He unveiled a new Justice Department initiative intended to prevent mass shootings. He sent a memo to federal prosecutors and law enforcement officials that while authorities have been able to adopt some counterterrorism measures to prevent mass shootings, the apparent abruptness of such attacks from people who exhibit ambiguous indications of intent, with air quotes, force officials to develop new means of stopping such attacks. The effort, which will hone authorities' ability to identify, assess, and engage potential mass shooters before they strike, details newly developed tactics that will be used by a joint terrorist task force, including the use of clinical psychologists, threat assessment professionals, intervention teams, and community groups. Said the tools were developed after subjects of recent threat investigations exhibited symptoms of mental illness or substance abuse issues. He added that these cases can often result in detention and court-ordered mental health treatment, substance abuse counseling, and electronic monitoring. Oh, man. Tony, unpack it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and say this. After an event, after a mass shooting, they pump so much bullcrap into the atmosphere that people don't get it. Most of these could have been prevented beforehand just by enforcing the laws that already exist. And no one was willing to talk about that. It's always about a new law, a new way the government can overstep and take your rights away every single time. How many times were the freaking sheriff's officer at the kid from Parkland's home? How come the freaking Air Force didn't do the paperwork for the guy who shot up the church in Texas? It was always some reason. Usually the government failed to protect you. And what is the government's answer? If you give us more of your rights, if you let us infringe upon you more, we can stop the next one. No, they can't. They didn't stop the first one. They didn't stop the last one, and they don't stop the next one, no matter how many of your rights they take away.
Aaron?
I love this idea, especially when it was Tom Cruise in Minority Report.
I thought you didn't like
Shut up. Well, it was a Philip K. Dick book originally, which I'm a huge fan of. So
You who trying to what?
Philip K. Dick.
I
Shut up.
thought so.
So yeah, and then the worst part of it was they would arrest people before the crime was even committed. And this is kind of going back to the whole thing is, are they guilty if they don't commit a crime? Do they, you are convicting people without any substance or of them even doing anything wrong, and that's not fair. That's not due process. That's not justice. That's, again, government overreach.
It's crazy, man. This kind of stuff really freaks me out. I'm like, this is pre-crime. It is Minority Report. It is scary AF.
Yeah. And people buying into it as if it's a good idea.
Bearing Arms had an article, 51% of respondents to a poll support rewriting the First Amendment. And what? So 51% of Americans think the First Amendment is outdated and should be rewritten. The First Amendment protects your right to free speech, free assembly, and freedom of religion, among other things. 48% believe hate speech should be illegal. Hate speech is not defined. We leave it up to the individual participant. Of those, about half think the punishment for hate speech should include possible jail time, while the rest think it should just be a ticket and a fine. 80% don't actually know what the First Amendment really protects. They think that they can just say whatever they want to say, whenever they want to say it, but really it stops the government from infringing on our naturally given rights. That's what the amendments actually do. Has nothing to do about, private businesses, has nothing to do with anything like that. It just has to do with the government not infringing our naturally given rights. Now, this is very interesting to me, especially the hate speech. Now, in England, hate speech is actually illegal, and comedians are like being fined and jailed for saying things, and private people posting on Facebook are also having the exact same thing. I just heard a crash from the other room, so I don't know what's going on in there. I think Nick might be dead. But
Man down.
yeah, I think people are such idiots. Honestly, the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and every other amendment, they exist for a dang reason. I think we need to leave them alone because they've worked pretty great so far. Aaron, start us off.
All right. So one of the things, I was listening to the news today, and they were talking about this girl who incited her boyfriend to kill himself by telling him to kill himself. I guess she did it like 122 times, and he did eventually. And they want to charge her, but there's no law stating you against that. Hate speech to me is if, like, I hate black people, I hate Jews, I hate white people, I hate Chinese people, but I like Japanese people. They're cool because I love anime. Anyhow, so that's hate speech. Is that, dude? That's no. People's ignorance shouldn't be held against them. They're ignorant. That's what it all boils down to. They could. I personally say people can say whatever they want. I will judge them by what they say and act accordingly. If you say stupid things, I'm not going to hang out with a stupid person. If someone is out there like, all Jews need to die, then I'm not going to hang out with them just for obvious reasons. Hate speech is protected under the First Amendment by the government, so the government can't come in and say you did this wrong. But if I say Tony and say something defamatory towards you and is a bold-faced lie, then you have the right to sue me. I think that's what it all boils down to, is the government should just back off. BTFO.
I look at it this way: the First Amendment and all our members, and it was written at a 6th grade reading level at the time, and they understood it. We're dumber than they were with more education. It's just that simple. Willful ignorance is just huge now. It's a thing. You're as dumb as you want to be, even though you have a phone in your hand that pretty much has the Library of frickin' Congress in it. We choose to be stupid and make TikTok videos. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's my new thing. I'm watching TikTok videos.
What do you think of those?
I think it's short attention span theater.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I'm down for that, though.
Yeah.
I would sign up for it, but then I guess the government says the Chinese will invade my phone.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that'll do it for the show. Let's wrap this thing up. Tony, remind us what you've been up to and where people can find you online.
You can find me online at diversityshoot.com. It's the second is for anyone. Jesus Christ. Hold on a second. Give me a pump the brakes.
Yeah, hold on a second. Give Tony a Skittle.
Yeah, that's what I sounded like. The second is for everyone. Diversity Shoot is what I do, what I run out of Jersey. We're growing this year. If you want to help us out, go to diversityshoot.com. Check us out. We can also be found on Facebook at The Second is for Everyone. We can be found on Instagram at Simon Says Train. And you can donate to our GoFundMe and Patreon, all of the same name. So thanks a lot.
I love it. And you'll be in DC or?
I'll be in DC Saturday with a bunch of other patriots and freedom-loving human beings. And I can't wait to meet you all and take pictures and have fun.
Very cool. People can find out more about that. That is November 2nd. SecondAmendmentRally.com. That's 2ND, 2NDAmendmentRally.com is where you can find out more.
And if you're going to get pictures with Tony, bring a drone. because you need that distance to get all of them in there.
Yeah, Google Earth is how I take my selfies, and
Tony got to stand on the corner for 3 weeks waiting for that truck to drive by.
and if you want to see gray buzzard face arms, you go check Aaron out.
All right, I love it. Aaron, what have you been up to? Where can people find you online?
People can find me with We Like Shooting. Just type that in, We Like Shooting. We have Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Check it all out.
All right, that's awesome. Don't forget to check out our advertisers, Patriot Patch Company, that's patriotpatch.co, as well as Second Call Defense, firearmsradio.tv/SCD. And don't wait till it's too late for that. You know, you carry a gun every day. Like we've talked about in a couple of these stories, what happens after the smoke clears. You don't want to say the wrong thing that gets you in trouble. If you make a mistake, if anything happens, you want to make sure that you're covered and that you don't spend the rest of your naturally given life, or even a year or 2 years or 5 years in jail. Leave us reviews, leave us your feedback. Firearmsradio.tv. Check out all the other great podcasts that are out there. And as I always say, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and Ben Allreed and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. We'll catch you next week.
This is where we just stare at each other at the end.
Yeah.
And then I do dance, and then I yell at people because they don't